Hey, what's up guys? Ryan Apollo here, and in this video I just want to break down something that could be really overwhelming. I just want to try and distill this into digestible pieces so you guys can understand. Especially, I know a lot of you guys are probably new to programming, new to this area, so there's a lot of potential and a lot of different areas that you can go down, paths you can go down, technologies, languages, stuff like that. And this is the sort of information that I wish I had when I was first getting into coding. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not a programmer by profession. This is more of a sort of passion, hobby, interest, whatever. I do penetration testing. So basically, I'm a hacker. I hack professionally for companies and try to identify vulnerabilities and communicate back to them where they're vulnerable. So a lot of the things that I'm testing on a day-to-day basis are web applications or basically technology that's built with code. And on my free time, I build a lot of this stuff myself. And so I'm not a developer by trade, but I do have a pretty good understanding of the different areas. And so hopefully I can provide value to you guys here and really just sort of give you a 1,000-foot view of the opportunities that are available through code. Now, before we really dive into this, I just want to emphasize that, don't allow all of this stuff to overwhelm you. It's very easy to get overwhelmed in this space. Focus on the fundamentals of programming. So basically all the stuff you guys are learning in like Free Code Camp or Code Academy or whatever resources you guys are using, focus on the fundamentals there, like data types, conditionals, loops, classes, inheritance, whatever. Focus on that stuff. And then that's going to make learning these tools and technologies a heck of a lot easier. And one last thing I'll say is definitely learn things on an as needed basis. So don't go for the shiny objects. That's the sucker's bet, to be honest with you. That is the pitfall that a lot of normies fall into when it comes to programming, is they always want to try to grab at the shiny objects, the latest and greatest. But to be honest, for the most part, if you just focus on your fundamentals, you can get a lot of mileage out of whatever you're learning before you need to jump in and learn the latest and greatest and change the way you're doing things. So, and when you go to do that, relying on those fundamentals is going to allow you to more easily and quickly get up to speed on whatever new technology is being used out there. So with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, so jumping into it now, this is the sort of overview in this mind map that I created here. Now, full disclaimer, there's a lot more areas in code that you could potentially go down. There's pretty much a limitless number of areas, and even areas that might not even exist right now and that might be created later. So this is by no means a comprehensive list, but here are some major areas of different paths you can go down to when it comes to code. So the first one we'll touch on is web development. Now, in web dev, you can be a front-end developer, you can be a back-end developer, or you can be a full-stack developer, which just basically means you do both front-end and back-end. So the building blocks of what you're going to want to learn as a front-end or full-stack developer is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, here in the parentheses, I've included some different frameworks or tools, technologies, whatever, that goes along with learning this. And, it's kind of like a pick one type of thing in most cases. But yeah, this is just for your extra information, sort of help you guys plan. I don't want to get too in the weeds with, what they are and, why you would pick one over the other or anything like that. Because I want to keep this video really general. As we, definitely subscribe to this channel if you're interested in, learning more information and going down a little bit more in depth in different things, because, that might be an area we expand off into in the future. But for right now, I want to keep this really general. The building blocks, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you're going to want to learn these pretty well if you want to go down this path. Especially like these frameworks here, you really want to learn vanilla JavaScript, basic JavaScript, before you learn any of these frameworks here, because React, Angular, Vue, these are all built on top of JavaScript, and basically they're another layer of abstraction to make developing front-end applications with JavaScript easier. So with that being said, the more JavaScript that you understand, the easier it's going to be to learn these and get up to speed quickly. So definitely focus on these fundamentals here. And then as far as the back end goes, you can pretty much use any language. Just pair it with a framework. So I know a lot of people have expressed interest in Python. It's also pretty popular for server-side back-end web servers. So for Python, you would want to look into a framework like Flask or Django, and that's just going to make it that much easier to develop your web application using Python, because the framework is made essentially to make it easier and more simple to build a web server using Python. So another example, if you want to stick to purely JavaScript, learning Node.js with Express is going to make it easier to create back-end web servers using JavaScript. Or PHP, you can use Laravel. But yeah, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this. I will say that down in the description below, if you're interested, I'm linking a video made by Traversy Media. He has an hour-long video of going over all of the web development tools and technologies that are popular and trending in 2020. So if you really want to get like a solid understanding lay of the land, he goes way more depth than I'm going to cover in this video here, and it can really help to sort of allow you to plan out your own roadmap for what you're going to learn. I will say, if you do choose to watch that video, do not allow all that information to overwhelm you. You don't even have to learn half of the tools and technologies listed there. Stick to these fundamentals here, and you're going to be up and running pretty quickly. And then as far as database goes, you're going to want to learn one of these here. There's relational and non-relational. I wouldn't worry too much about what this means quite yet, but just know that you're going to want a database in order to give your web application functionality, because a database is what allows you to store data. So without the ability to store data, your web app won't be very useful. So being able to store that data to either use it, reuse it in your application, or maybe you're storing some data that you can provide to the end user or other applications is going to be essential. So you're going to want to learn a database here. Now, one thing about web development in general, I know a lot of people want to go down the route of working for a company, corporation, as a way to basically make a higher salary, make more money, right? Web dev is an excellent choice for that. There are a lot of jobs available. There's been a lot of jobs for a long time, and I don't see that demand going away anytime soon. As the internet, we're in the internet age, right? So everything is, an API or a website, so having this skill set is going to be an extremely marketable thing. Even if you don't want to work for another company, you want to work for yourself, this is also a great skill set to have. You can take on client work with freelancing by building websites for small businesses or your clients. You can build your own websites to sell a digital product or service. There's just so much potential here. This is a great route to go down if making money is something you want to do with code. Which, you can make that argument for pretty much most of these things here. But yeah, especially web development. Now, moving right along into the mobile side of things, there's native development and non-native. I wouldn't worry too much about what this means. Just know that non-native is where I see things moving. This is the future of mobile development, the way I see it, because with native development, you're locked into a certain language and a certain architecture. So you're either locked in, or I guess platform might be more the terminology here. So you're either locked into developing only Apple, iOS apps, or you're locked into making Android apps. And if you want to make it cross-platform, you have to rewrite your code. Nowadays, one thing that's really trending, this is going to be a way cleaner way to do this, is use something that's cross-platform, that's a non-native development. So if you're using C#, you can use the Xamarin platform. If you want to use React.js, you can use React Native. So it's really cool. You pair it with, like, say you specialize in web dev, but you want to make some mobile apps to basically increase like your cash flow here. You know, that's something you can do. If you understand how to use React.js on your front end, it'll be really easy to learn React Native. And basically you can build a full stack app. You can have an API that's sending data to your front end. You can build a backend API that can send data to your front end for your application, and also send that data to your mobile app. And so you could basically build one backend, one front end, one mobile app, and have both a website and a companion app for it all at once. So really cool stuff there. Definitely would recommend non-native, because then you can have your app available on both Android and the iOS store, the Apple store. So moving along, data science and machine learning. There are more options in Python and R, but I only bothered including them because they by far dominate this market. Python and R are like really good for this. So I've actually, as a little aside here, I use the NHL API to pull in a bunch of data on like team stats and player stats, and I use Python with Jupyter notebooks, and I had like all these cool charts and all this really interesting analytics analytical data that I was able to use using data science. So it's really cool. Got a lot of insights about the NHL because I'm a pretty big hockey fan. And I think stuff like that's really cool. If I would have taken it a step further, I could have applied some machine learning to it to make some predictions, maybe created an app that would be like a suggester for like fantasy sports or something like that. And if I really optimize it, maybe I could market it and sell it to people that want a competitive edge when it comes to fantasy sports or something. There's really like so much application, so many different cool things you can do with this. This is a really hot, trending topic. A lot of potential there. So yeah, I know a lot of guys are interested in Python, this is definitely a viable route to go down. As far as jobs, there's a lot of potential here. A lot of companies are looking to leverage data science and machine learning. Another area is game dev. Now, I wouldn't really recommend this if your intention is to make money, because it's really competitive to become a game developer for a company. It's it's pretty much like a red ocean, right? There's a lot of sharks. There's a lot of competition to get in here. And unless you're working for like a AAA game studio, there's not that much money to be made. There's so many games out there on the market, on the Steam store. I mean, you open up Steam or, whatever gaming platform, you'll see all the indie games out there. So if you're going to start off as an indie game developer, it's going to be really difficult to gain traction and stuff. So this is something I'd say it's cool to do for fun if it's something you're interested in. But if your primary goal is to make money, and especially to make money as quickly as possible, I would recommend like staying away from game dev. But yeah, it could be fun to explore into. There's two engines that dominate this market: Unreal Engine and Unity. Unreal is written in C++, Unity uses C#. So those are your options there. The next category that I want to touch on is low level. Now, this is a very general, broad category. So by low level, I mean pretty much anything that is at a lower level than the application layer, which, if you're not familiar, the application layer is like the user's interaction with the code. So this is going to be a lower level than that. So think about like the underlying technology. So one example that I'll give you here is like the Chrome browser. That was written in a lower level language. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been like C++ or something like that, right? The V8 engine, if you hear about Chrome's V8 engine, that engine was developed in a lower level language. Your drivers on your computer, so you have different software drivers for, different hardware and stuff on your computer, firmware and stuff like that. That's all written in these lower level languages. Reason for it is that these languages tend to run a lot faster than higher level languages, and they're also a lot more, just lightweight and good at doing these sort of tasks. So that's why you really want something that is made for that. That's why, even though these are old languages, they're tried and true. They're around, because when you need to have like the highest performance possible, this is what you need to use. Now, for like web apps and stuff like that, like this stuff, even though it's higher level, and Python, a lot of people say is really slow. Honestly, the speed of it is fast enough for most of what you'd want to do. But when you get into low level programming, that's when all of this stuff really matters. So that's why these languages dominate here. But yeah, this is another route you can go down. And then lastly, I'd like to touch on blockchain. This is like a new and emerging, really cool, interesting area. As far as the jobs, I'm not sure how, I'm really not sure how many jobs there are out there for blockchain compared to these other things. I think there's a pretty good amount of stuff now, though, because a lot of the larger corporations are starting to really get that blockchain buzz and like start thinking about how they can leverage the technology for their business. So I think it's definitely a growing area, but definitely it's somewhere where I think that this is the future. Like I'm a pretty huge proponent of Bitcoin and stuff as well. So yeah, I definitely believe in this technology, and even if the currency doesn't go to the moon, which I think it will personally, but even if it doesn't, I think this technology is without a doubt going to, it's not going away. It's definitely going to only get more and more prevalent and more. And honestly, the more blockchain developers there are out there, the more this area can mature and grow and be extremely useful. So the two main areas that I like to think about with blockchain are dApps, which are decentralized apps. That's basically what that's short for. And then there are what I would call like blockchain technology. Those are like the two main areas, I guess you could say. So dApps, that's like more on the application layer. So think about like it's a lot higher level. So that would be written with JavaScript or Solidity. So for dApps, one of the most common things that probably come to a lot of people's minds, but it's not limited to this, would be Ethereum and smart contracts. So a smart contract is a dApp. So these smart contracts, often they're written in like Solidity or something like that. And you can basically build web apps also that are like decentralized web apps. So, and then you get all the benefits of having your data decentralized. So if you're familiar with Bitcoin and stuff, you'll know what benefits that gives. So, but yeah, if you want to go at the higher level programming when it comes to blockchain, write smart contracts and stuff like that, learn how to build dApps with Solidity, JavaScript, stuff like that, front end stuff as well. All the front end stuff will come into play if you have a decentralized app, right? So yeah, that's when these three things come into play as well. And then when it comes to blockchain technology, that could be anything from like coding the underlying like blockchain networks, cryptocurrencies, any kind of technology that leverages blockchain. Now this is like more lower level, but yeah, this is definitely high in demand. Python, Golang, C++, C#, Java, Rust, really good for this sort of stuff. So yeah, I hope this was of value to you guys. So yeah, just let me know in the comment section below any feedback you guys might have, if this was of help or not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.